Welcome everyone on today's webinar. My name is Jiri Walek. I'm Vice President of Product Management at Nuvart. And today I want to speak about how to increase the digital ROI. In other words, how Nuvart digital adoption platform can help you actually to squeeze more value out of the digital tools that you are using or that you are actually planning to use in your organization. The agenda is quite straightforward. I know that there are some people who already a bit understand about what the Nuvart is, but there are some that knows very little about us. So I will start with kind of our mission introduction to what the Nuvart is, a very short live demo, what we are actually providing to the market. And then we'll definitely dive deeper into why, let's see, why to consider digital adoption platform in general and why specifically Nuvart. So this is the main, let's say, plan for this webinar. Our mission, let's say, we started a company a couple of years ago with a mission to help people close or at least reduce the gap, the distance between technology, between the software and people, means us, all of us who is using, who are using any kind of the, let's say, digital technology. And if you would ask, why is it so important? We see that actually, first, the complexity of the technology is actually advancing exponentially. And because of that, the companies are really struggling to keep up with this. But it's also that the clients, the users, the customers are becoming more and more demanding and actually difficult to please. And if we have a look what it is actually causing, we can see the statistics like that from Gartner that claims that 75% of all the digital transformations are actually failing. And you may ask yourself, what does it really mean to the end user? Because, you know, digital adoption is a lot about an individual user actually using the technology. If you ask this question, you are very likely your answer will be connected to what you see on the screen today. Now, it's about the fact that you need to train your people on the technology, but people forget. It's not the people forget. We all forget anything we learn, so we need to be retrained. And then there is a change, and then comes the frustration. And this is exactly where we think we can disrupt the traditional way how the people actually experience this process of onboarding, how they actually experience the application itself, because the Nuvart provides a technology that lets you actually attach an interactive step-by-step guidance to any web application. So the result is that you actually learn by doing directly in the app, not miles away in a YouTube or some platform. And let me stop here on the PowerPoint, and I will show you live what does it actually mean from the end user perspective, because it is truly trivial. So I will open my web browser. This is my Chrome, and I've here in a CRM system. A CRM system you probably have never seen. This is on purpose because we want you to experience the first time user impression. So you're exposed to a relatively simple interface that you haven't seen, and you want to understand how to use it. So of course, we said that the guides themselves are embedded in the tool. So that's why we actually, let's say, embed the guidance on top of the actual running system. So if I want to know how to create an opportunity in this CRM system, it tells me I should hover here, I should create, click on create new account. It tells me that I should fill in the forms, should click next, hit save, and that's it. So basically, I want to spend minutes and minutes to show you all the different examples of what you can build. But fundamentally, you should remember that the goal of the digital adoption platform like Nuvart is to really bring the guides very close to the user and make it really simple to learn new stuff just by doing it. So instead of learning how or reading how to create an account, I was actually guided in the application itself. But if you go back into this slide, we saw that it's not just about being able to get the guidance anytime. What we also see here is this actual change. And this change is quite crucial in today's business because we are living in the era where everything is accelerated. We need to respond to the challenges really quickly. And it also means that if you have a CRM system, if you have an ALM system, if you have an ERP system, you may need to improve the processes continuously to improve your effectivity. It also means that when you roll out a digital technology, you still need to, let's say, continuously improve the way how you actually use that. And how is it with our journey? So if you are changing the product, how is the guide actually reacting to these changes? And that was, let's say, a very important question we asked at the early days, because what we always imagined is that it must be absolutely simple to create the guides, the onboarding experience, but also to maintain it without heavy technical skills, without any effort. And to do so, we provide to the market so-called Nuvart Studio, an application that can help you to design, to create, but also to deploy, to install the Nuvart intelligence overlay without any technical difficulties. And we will see that not just to create it, but also measure how is it being used. But again, instead of just, let's say, speaking to the slides, I want to show you how easy and trivial it actually is. So I have here my Nuvart editor. It's a desktop application. By the way, we have just released a new version, which went through the complete visual revamp. So everything looks modern and simple and even more easier than it was. But anyway, it's the editor, and inside there is a browser with the same CRM applications we have seen in a minute. And I would like to show you how easy it is actually to create a guide that we have experienced from the end user perspective a minute ago. So I want to create it, not as a developer, but just as a teacher. So I want to create a guide how to create an account. This is demo. And it's a best practice whenever you actually create some kind of a guidance that you introduce what is it about. So I say welcome. Welcome. Then the next step will be we should click here on this create button. So I will put it here. So I should click on create. Another step should be here, click create. This is okay, or let's put it here as well. And then the next step should be, I guess, fill in your name. We want this to be presented here. And the last step will be click here, click save. That's it. So it took me, I don't know, 1 minute to design this guide. And of course, I can test it here. So I run it. It starts with my welcome screen. I can, of course, describe what I will learn. I should click create. I should click create an account. I should fill in my name, and I should click save. So that's really it is that easy to actually create a guide and also to maintain it. But I will speak about maintenance in the second half of my webinar today. Let's go back to the slides. So what you have seen is the two major components. From the end user perspective, you can create a there is a step-by-step guide that you can embed in any application. You have seen it in the CRM system, but you can really, let's say, do it for any application that you are using today. And then we have a studio that helps some of your people to actually create these guides really easily. And what are the actual results? Why is that important? So the first number I want to speak about is the so-called internal training cost. This is the real world scenario that proves or that speaks about train and learn faster. You remember my chart, this curve that speaks about training and forgetting and change, etc. So that's the first part of this curve. That it's the fact that the guides are embedded in the tool itself. It just makes the training faster. In this case, the customer was saying it cut, let's see, the 1 week training into the actual 3 days. I'm still believing that we can cut this even more, but we present data as they are. But this is roughly, let's say, around 40 or 40% increase. In their case, they were counting actually the effort because it was also, they were able to automate these 3 days. So that's why from the money perspective, it was the 51%, let's say, saving, even though the time perspective from the end user point of view were, let's say, just the 2 days. But let's say this is the first benefit, to learn faster, because I don't learn it on the paper, but I learn by doing. But it's not just about learning faster. What we have learned in this case is that the fact that the guides are embedded in the tool, available anytime, this client was able to retrain all the or to get rid of all the retraining activities. It means that in the past they were regularly after 2-3 months going through some let's say repetitive trainings, and this was completely made unnecessary. So this is also one of the great, let's say, benefit of having the guides embedded in the system directly. Now let's speak about a different point of view, a different reason why it makes truly the sense, especially today, to adopt the tools like Nuvart. The title of this webinar speaks about ROI, but it doesn't speak in the ROI of using Nuvart. So it's not a return of investment into our technology. It's the goal of Nuvart is actually to improve the ROI that you have invested in the other technology. In this case, there was the client that were, let's say, using the Siemens solution for application lifecycle management. And there is a, let's say, timesheet functionality. It doesn't really matter much. What is it? But what was important is that every user was supposed to perform this activity once per week. They need to process their work records and measure how did they spend the time actually. And what they have seen in the past, that the data were very unreliable, because the clients were actually making a lot of mistakes when they were entering the data. And what they have found out, that the expectation they have into the Siemens Polaren system was based on the fact that the data will be tracked, but the data will be accurate. And what we help them is actually to provide this step-by-step guides. So as a result, of course, the number of support tickets get lower. So the people did not need to or do not need to actually ask those questions over and over again. Of course, the users save the time, but more importantly, there is a decrease in the number of mistakes that the employees were actually making, which at the end, ultimately, lead into the actually better ROI into this tool itself. So don't think that the only value of new digital adoption platform is actually just the training or onboarding. It actually makes the quality of data be entered in the system being better. The same speak about the thing that let's say that these tickets have been, of course, not just, let's say, there were calls, there were emails, etc. So there are all these numbers, but that's really something that we can skip for now. And let's speak about this. A tool brings more value the more it is being used. This was again measured with the same client. They were saying that, let's say, the data get actually better, that they save time on training, etc. But what they have also seen through the fact that the people were able to get the guides anytime in the application, they were willing to use the system more often. What they have measured is that the number of interactions was increased by 20% within the 6 months. Again, this directly connects to the ROI of this particular application, because if the users are not using it, of course, I mean, it's quite clear that you cannot expect the let's see the ROI that you expect from the actual purchase. But if the users are actually more satisfied, if they are better trained, if they trust they can work better with the tool, they use it more, and as a result, you get better ROI from your investment. This is also, let's say, an important lesson learned from our customers. Quite obvious, but anyway, users do not search for help. In this case, Sinetrade, they provide the e-procurement solution, let's see, for a global market. They've realized that they have a pretty extensive knowledge base, where the knowledge base was a third-party system where they have all the different articles, where they describe feature A and feature B and use case this and use case that. But in reality, the users were not searching this knowledge base. All the time, they were just opening the support tickets. We have seen that Nuvart can help you to embed the guides into the tool. But what we help Sinetrade to do is that we have not converted every and each article into the journey, into this guide. Instead, we just add tips. You can imagine that as a tooltips into the target application, and the tip was actually pointing to this article. So anytime the user was actually lost, he can see or she can see this interactive tooltip, and the tooltip itself will actually open the article in the knowledge base. Just by this fact, just by being able to contextually link the articles from the tool, increases the traffic to the knowledge base by the factor of 10. This was a very, let's see, that was extremely efficient process that we did not ask the customer to actually convert all their guides and tutorials into the Nuvart journeys. We'll tell them, convert just the guides that are important, the most important ones, and keep all the rest in your knowledge base, and let's just write these tooltips that points to these articles. This was really a great story. Okay, Uh, we actually have been speaking about this chart, which ultimately speaks about the training curve, about how do you learn, how do you forget, a change, frustration, and how with Nuvart, this can be actually better. But some people forget that it's an ongoing process. And the goal of Nuvart is not just to, let's say, to improve the first 6 months once you are actually potentially rolling a new technology, but it's the ongoing user experience over multiple years. And so now we actually speak about the existing users that have been potentially trained, that have been potentially using the system for a year or two. And we have actually run a little survey that we have been asking the real world users, how much time do you save per week, uh, even though you're experienced, trained user? So we were not asking how much time did you saved in the first 3 months. We were asking, you are using the system for 1 year now. Is Nuvart still helping you continuously? And we have seen that in average, this converts in a 1 hour a month. And again, this is every week for, let's see, in average for every employee, 1 year after the application was rolled out, after all the trainings, etc. Now we speak about actually our ROI calculator, which if we actually estimate really based on our real world feedback, 1 hour wasted a month. If you have, imagine a 2,000 users, 1 hour wasted a month. Let's take mechatronics or mechanical industry as a base with an average $30 an hour. And let's imagine that we will just be able, or you will be able to convert 20% of this 1 hour wasted into a productive work. So we know that if you, let's say, if we save you 1 hour, you will not be able to convert this 1 hour immediately into something productive. So we estimate the factor 20%. This immediately converts into $150,000 return of investment over the 12 months. So these are really just a few numbers I wanted to speak today because they are really based on the real world, let's say, clients and perspective. And now we can again go back into a bit of technology and speak about if these are the numbers, what does it really mean from technical or product perspective? So what are the unique functional characteristics of Nuvart? And let's go one by one through it. The first one is about simplicity and robustness. And honestly, it's always the first slide I highlight when I speak about these unique characteristics, but it's also the most difficult to explain. Because honestly, that's our job, to make it simple and robust. But we want to remind you that this is also our unique differentiator against the competition. Why is it so? Because every digital adoption platform has this goal that it should be simple and robust, but we have some unique patented algorithms to keep it really robust. So most of the competitors, when you will see the demo, you will see it simple. But what you will learn after a couple of the months, that the journey will break here, will break there, once there is a new version of the Salesforce, once there is a new version of Siemens Polaren system, you would need to redo the guides over and over again. And this is because the system cannot be fine-tuned well for the target platform. And what we actually invested a lot of our energy is actually to make sure that the guides you create with our system will stay working, will keep working over time, over years. And to make them robust, you don't need to be a technical engineer. You can really be just a basic content author that knows the topic, the application, but knows very little about the technology. And I just want to remind you that this is really the let's see, the very important non-functional requirement that you should always consider when thinking about the digital adoption platform. This is also about the fact that I was speaking at the beginning about the effort to maintain the let's see, the training materials. That just because of the robustness, it's actually cheaper or easier, faster to maintain the Nuvart journeys if you would even compare it to the traditional materials like PDFs or videos. So it's that easy. It doesn't really cost you more time. The second characteristic speaks about the security and privacy. Again, in today's world, these two words are being used very, very often. And I can speak an hour about what it means to us. I don't have the time for that. Let me just really go through it very quickly. First, it means we understand the GDPR regulations. We understand what kind of the data we may or we may not collect. So you have an option to deploy Nuvart without any data collection. So there will be no data being sent to our system. Of course, if you want to collect the analytical data, all of that is strictly non-personal, optional. And by the way, think about the data collection. The data, where they are, you choose. You want to install it on-premise, or would you like to install it on our dedicated cloud? It's your decision. We allow you to host it fully on your premises. We have customers who really who are very sensitive around the data privacy, so they really value all this flexibility we have in a different deployment options. Characteristics number 3, control the content publishing. The journeys, the guides, we call it content. It's the content you create. It's a guide. It's something that is presented to your users. And anything you produce shall be reviewed from the quality perspective. So you need to guarantee that whatever is visible to the end users pass some qualitative criteria. And honestly, sometimes this is even required because we have customers in the regulated industries where they really need to prove that the procedure, how the user is being actually guided, was reviewed and approved, so the user is not actually misguided. Because there is a risk that if you guide someone in the wrong direction, there will be, let's say, a safety or security impact. So by collaboration with our customers, with the market, we are bringing a robust but simple publishing workflows. And again, I spoke a while and I was just using the slides. Let's have a break from the slides and I'll show you quickly what do I mean by the publishing workflows, okay? So if we go to our browser and we refresh the screen here, you remember that we have created our test journey using the studio. So we've been creating the journey, and this journey is actually not here listed. So the end users are not seeing immediately what I have been creating in the past. So I have here my journey that says how to create an opportunity. Let me just put something here so we can find it easily in the user interface. So what I'm trying to explain is that when I use my editor, my studio, all the changes I'm doing are not instantly visible to the end users because they have not been reviewed, maybe even approved by my manager, whatever. If I want to go and publish them, I mark the journey as active. And then there is a so-called, let's say, publishing portal where you can see all the different versions of the content. And I need to submit the changes for the review. You see that actually this is the new journey that we have added a couple of minutes ago. And some colleague of mine has actually also updated a survey here. And there are no other changes. I can call it webinar 28th of January, and I can submit it for the review. So now, actually, we would go here and we will, let's say, check this application. If I imagine myself to be an end user, I'm still not able to see that. It's still the old content. I can do, and I can mark this version 80 for a preview and invite some of the people to review it, to test it, to approve it. And once this is reviewed, tested, and approved in the browser, you can publish it as live. Once I publish this as live, and I go here and I refresh my screen, now finally the content will get visible, will get active. You may ask why I'm speaking about it. It's quite technical. You're absolutely right. But what we want to highlight is that we really consider quality as important non-functional requirement from the perspective that you need or we need to provide you enough features to guarantee that whatever the end user is seeing really meet your qualitative criteria. Let's go back to the slides. Multi-application support. For the context of this webinar, I was showing you how to create guides in this CRM tool that we use for our demos. But what you need to understand is that from the user perspective, it doesn't really, the users do not care that much about applications. They care about use cases, about scenarios, where the scenario may actually involve multiple apps. So I may need to create an order in the CRM system where this is an application A, and then I need to go to the warehouse application B to create an order also there. And then I go back into the CRM system and I update my dashboard. What is this saying is that it's quite important to step out from the concept of training user on an application, but instead of that, training user on the scenario, on the flow, and the scenario may involve multiple apps together. And we have designed our application to support that. So from business model to the functional features, we are fully ready to provide the multi-application guidance or scenario guidance without being focused or on if this is application A or application B. Same important as multi-application support is a multi-language support. Speaking about multiple languages, there are two, let's say, major components or requirements that we know from the market. The first requirement is that you need the guides, the journeys, the tips to speak different languages to the end users. So depending if I'm coming from Italy or from US or from Spain, I want to receive the guides in a different language. But same challenge is there if my application is actually translated in multiple languages, because if there is a button that has a different title in different languages, you still want to have your guides being created just once. And again, I think that we have disrupt the traditional flow how to provide these training materials or step-by-step guides through the concept that we don't need your translators to actually use our technology. What it means that you create your guides using our studio, and then you have an ability to download the, the content in an industry standard format called XLIF. You send this file to your translator department, to the contractor. He or she will translate it, or it can be actually also automated translation by machine learning algorithms. You get the translation back, you upload it, and suddenly the content is being translated. So the long story short is we don't force all your translators to use our technology. We know how important is it to have the content translated. That's why it must be absolutely simple to translate it. You set up what languages are important for you. You just download the translation packages for all your supported languages. You send it to your translators. They translate it. You import the changes back, and the guides immediately start speaking the different languages. Last but not least is the business model. We have 30 years experience of delivering products to the market. And in all our history, in all the products we have been delivering in the past and we are delivering today, we believe that it's very important to be transparent and fair when it speaks about licensing, pricing, and the business model. It's absolutely easy to evaluate everything what I was presenting today. You can start today by downloading the so-called free editor. This is the studio that you can get, you can download and test it in any scenarios you need. If your scenario is a little bit more advanced and you would also like to see how it actually deploys to the end users, how do I translate it, how do I work with the publishing process, we recommend a very clear proof of concept business model where we let you, let's say, test and evaluate everything with our assistants over the 30 days. And then there is a purchasing process that is, again, absolutely transparent. There is the online calculator on our website. You pay per users. The more users you have, the more users you pay. And just imagine, I spoke that even for the people that have been trained just on, let's say, 1 year after they have been using the system, they have been saving 1 hour a month in average. This goes, let's say, even higher if you need to roll out a new technology for some of the, let's say, new apps you are deploying. So let's recap. So we still have 5-6 minutes for some Q&A session. We have a solution for the digital adoption challenges today. It brings a great return of investment. The solution is called Nuvart Journeys. Simple and robust, security, workflows, multi-application, multi-language, and very transparent business model. That's what we have. Thank you for your attention. I'm sure that you will have some questions, so I will now stop sharing my screen and I'll go through the Q&A panel and try to answer some of your questions. Let me just do I need to integrate Nuvart with the target application on the server? This is a bit technical question, but but I'll try to answer it anyway. Actually, no. But the deployment is kind of important step in the actual rollout process. What I want to say is that you have your studio where you create the content, but at the end, you would also need to make sure that the content gets visible to your end users. And there are actually two options how we deal with that. One option is that you deploy a small JavaScript snippet into your target application. But this snippet will just ensure that this runs on the client and just ensures that the client-side browser will access our resources and let's see, the guides will appear on the end user screen. Or we also have a so-called browser extension that in case you don't want to touch the end user, let's see, the target application at all, if you don't want to configure anything on that, you can use the browser extension. How much time does it take to create the onboarding guidance for a typical application? I said typical because there was a specific name listed here. How much time does it take to create a guide? Let me speak about a single guide, okay? This varies a lot, but I hate these answers, and I try to give you at least some answer, okay? What we see recently is that some of our customers actually are so much pressured into improving this digital experience that they even don't have time to create these journeys by themselves. So they ask us or our partners to actually create the guides for the applications we don't know at all. How it typically works is that, let's say we recommend that the guides should be created by someone who understands the product, the technology. And in that moment, if they don't have a time or capacity to create it, and they are asking us, how can we do it? We usually just receive, or our partners receives the, let's say the video or the PDF with the guide, and we convert it. And here I can assess how much time it usually takes. So I think that I usually believe that in 1 week, you can have a good set of journeys to start deploying it in production. What it means that you will not cover every use case, every scenario. But if you are able to identify the most important one, 10 of them, 5 of them, whatever, depends on the complexity. I think in 1 week, you will already be able to see the benefit. And that's when you're, let's see, measuring some of these data, they were really, let's say, based on fairly simple guides, so nothing really like 1 year investment or something like that. Can I put images and videos into the guides? Yes, I did not want to dive deep into every single feature we have. But yes, of course, you can add images, of course, you can add videos, and actually, you can even do more than just this. So anytime you have, I'll try to share my screen again. So every time you have and let's create a tip. So I want to create a tip here, pointing here. I can of course add picture, image, etc. But I can also add dynamic components. If I want user to ask a question, I can create a survey, and the survey itself will actually appear in the bubble itself. So there are there are lots of features that I've been not speaking about. There are so-called visibility rules. So you want, let's say, the step to be visible only to under some conditions, etc. So yes, there is much more what you can actually do with the content, put images, videos, surveys, you have plugins. You can just, let's see, really produce a rich guides. Whatever you need will be there. Anything else? Let me check my time. We still have 1 minute more. Let me see. This is a, yeah, that was important. The, the, the attendee is asking whether it's possible to show a different guide for a different user persona. I'll try to how I read that. Okay, this feature set is, or this feature is typically called segmentation. You may have a different type of users. You may have power users, you may have administrators, you may have newbies, you may have project managers, you can have just regular engineers, and every single role have slightly different, let's see, expectation around what they need to learn, what they need to do in the application. And so they should also be exposed with a different guides. That's called segmentation. And yes, you can build the, let's say, the guides differently for different personas. If you are not seeing the administration interface, you will simply not get any kind of the guides related to the administration, etc. So yes, the segmentation is quite crucial, let's say, feature that everyone needs. There are some of the questions that are very specific that I don't think that I should answer live. So I think that it will be better if we follow up one by one, because these are just really personal questions about your tools, your specific company. So I'm sure that we will come back to each of you who have been asking the question, but I have not answered that live. So I hope we can close this webinar now, because we are 5 minutes after the limit. Again, thank you everyone for joining today. The session has been recorded. We'll share the recording with you after this, after we process that. If you would have any question regarding the business or technical side, please let us know. Even I personally can schedule a one-on-one meeting with you and discuss your potential needs. Thank you. Bye.